This is a Vision Commerce video, and in this video we're going to discuss purchasing and the entry of a standard stock purchase order onto the system. As you can see, I've already got the main menu open, and under the purchases, which is the default tab, you'll see the very first entry is a shopping basket, which is the purchase order entry. I'm going to open that, and then what I'm going to do is enter a purchase order in so that you can see how simple it is. On this one here, I'm going to type in the supplier of the goods. It automatically adds in a lot of information. So you can see here the supplier name, we can see the currency, the status is O at the moment, so it's O is outstanding, and then C is complete. We have to select the warehouse group and warehouse that the stock is going to go into. So I'm going to put this into the trading stocks. So there is only one warehouse there. So you notice again that's filled in more information. Now the pickup address defaults to the supplier's address. You can have other pickup addresses in the system. You simply drop down box, change the address you want to use, and that's the address that appears on the paperwork. Because if you set your haulier up with an email address, a copy will go to them, and that will give them instruction to go and pick up the goods. So top section here is the pickup address, the bottom section here is the delivery address at the warehouse, and the bottom section here is the shipper. If you're going to send it to the shipper, you can fill the details in here and the shipping instructions, if there are any, to give them. On the right hand side of the screen, the supplier reference goes in the top box, so if you're quoting a reference to them, them to you, it could simply be who you've spoken to. The date required, and you can set this using the date picker, any date that you want. The VAT code, this is determined initially by where the supplier is based. So if it's a European supplier, it'll be a different code. If it's outside Europe, it's another code. But for a UK supplier, it's the VAT code of S. This does not mean that the duty is payable, because you're also specifying it's going to an underbond address and it's underbond stock. So when you specify the items on the order, you'll say whether that line is duty paid and we know that then VAT's chargeable, or it's underbond and we know VAT's not chargeable. Generally, most stock in the UK comes in customs duty paid, so this will default to the tick box, so you can just leave that. And the payment terms here, these come from the supplier account, so you can change this to whichever you want. Exchange rate, because we're working in pound sterling, which is the base currency, is set to 1 and no ability to change it. If we were using a different currency, it would come up with the exchange rate. You can use that exchange rate. You can also set a fixed rate, which means that the rate that was put in at the time of the order is the rate we'll use all the way through the transactions to value the stock. If you don't do that, we take the value at the point when the invoice is received, and we use the invoice date and the currency exchange rate at that time. So if there's nothing to enter here, and for the majority of people there will be nothing to enter, you simply go to the purchase order details and you type in the product code. It'll automatically enter in the description. You specify how many you want. It works out the cost. The cost is based on what you've added into the product table. Any discount that you might have, you can adjust anything in here at the moment, and the final box on the end is whether it's duty paid or not. So all fairly simple sets of information that you need to add in here. What you can see at the bottom is on the freight section is that we're using standard cost. Standard cost is based on the freight charges that you set up in the country or the region table against each of the country regions. Obviously this is coming from the UK. We're using the UK standard cost for the goods coming in. You don't have to use that cost. You can simply say, okay, this has been delivered free, so there's no cost, or we can use a fixed cost. So if your supplier says this is going to cost you £20, you can specify a fixed cost as well. The information here obviously comes down to the region that the goods are coming from. If there's nothing else to enter here, you can simply say save, and that's the purchase order complete. If you wanted to add surcharges or notes in, you simply click on the box, add any surcharges, So there could be anything like shipping, customs charges that you have to add in, and any notes you want to put on the order as a final field. So if you're happy with this and you want to save it, when you hit the save button, it'll then save it. You'll see it's given it a number, and what you can then do is go to the documents, PO acknowledgements, number 751, which is this one here. You can see here it's not been printed or emailed, it's ready to go, and you can simply select this and say print selected. What this will do is it will send an email to your supplier's email address. If you selected a shipper, it will send an email to the shipper, and it will also, depending on your warehouse, will either email the warehouse or it will make the purchase order submission available in the warehouses section, and you can simply go to the warehouses section and do the warehouse submission. A lot of the warehouses, this is known as the pre-advice. You're pre-advising the warehouse that the goods are coming. If you make an amendment at any point, you can simply come back here and resend the goods again and the purchase orders again. And again, you can also send the warehouse submission to the warehouse, and as long as the warehouse have not received the goods and they're not sitting on the premise, it will update the warehouse documents so that they know there's a revised quantity coming to them. So hopefully that's helpful with the submission or the entry of the purchase order.